Is your business spending too much money on your team? That's the question we're answering on today's episode of the Profit Pillar Show. I'm your host, Parker Stevenson, CEO of the accounting firm Evolve Finance and the author of the book Profit Pillars. Now, my book Profit Pillars talks about the fact that there are four main expense buckets, which we call a business's profit pillars, where you're going to categorize all of the different expenses in your business into one of those four profit pillars. And the one profit pillar that has the biggest impact over and over and over again on our clients' businesses at Evolve Finance, it's the labor expense bucket. Because every team or every business needs a team. Every business owner eventually needs to have some people around them to get more work done so y'all can serve more customers and clients. Now, back in the day, I got started in the online space back in 2014. A lot of business owners were doing things themselves, especially online business owners, coaches and consultants, influencers, business models like that. And they had like maybe an assistant. But over the years, online businesses and modern small businesses have gotten more complex. It's gotten more competitive, and these businesses are able to scale more than they would have back in the day, and they can be more sustainable and stick around for longer periods of time. But in order to do that, the business owner can't burn out after 4 years. They need a team. They need contractors and or employees to support the business owner so that they can get more done, be more effective, and hopefully have a bigger, more profitable business down the road. But labor is also one of the most expensive things you will spend money in your business. Unless your business is spending gobs of money on advertising, then chances are your team will be your biggest cost. Now, if you are a freelancer, a solopreneur right now, maybe you're not there yet because you are doing all the things. But I would sure think that eventually you want to get to a place where you're no longer doing all the things. So if that's you, still listen, because there's going to be a lot in this episode that I think is going to be helpful for anyone who has any aspiration of growing their business beyond just themselves, or I'm sure a lot of you listening have already done so. Your business already has a team. So labor costs are expensive because people are expensive. We're paying for people's salaries. Now, you can have overseas contractors that are living in countries where maybe a salary over there can be a lot lower than in the US. And we're not here to kind of talk about the pros and cons of that. But either way, whether you have contractors overseas or you have US-based employees, it adds up, and it adds up quickly. Now, with our clients at Evolve Finance and with what we teach in the book Profit Pillars, we like to group together as many of the contractors and all of the employees under this labor expense pillar. Because ultimately, we've seen clients in past years try to break team members up by this is the marketing team, this is the operations team, and spreading that out across the P&L. It doesn't help them gain any insights. It might make sense because it's like, ooh, I have an operations department, I have a marketing department, here's the sales department. But it's hard to know, well, what should I be spending in these departments? The metrics around those departments don't really make sense. What does make sense is when you group as many of your labor expenses into one big bucket. You can still break them down by the different types of contractors, and we break down payroll a little bit for our clients as well, so we can separate out employees from the owner's salary. But ultimately, the more you have your labor grouped together under one category, the easier it is to analyze if you're just spending too much on team. And then you can go in and look at your team, and look at your contractors and employees and decide, hey, am I overspending? Do I need to let someone go? Do we need to make a hire? But ultimately, it starts with the metric. Where are we in terms of the percentage of our business's revenue going to team expenses? How much of the money we're making, what percentage of that money is going to paying the team? And this is an important one. Now, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what we talk about in Profit Pillars. Ideally, for most online and modern small businesses, we want your labor expenses to be at 20% or less. If you are more of a service-based business like we are at Evolve Finance, where you have a team and that team is the product, they're the ones delivering on the offer, then that's more of a service-based business, like an accounting firm, like an ad agency or a marketing agency. Then you might be looking at more like 20% or 30%, as 30% or less going to team that's serving the actual customers. And that's like ideal. It's not something every business can achieve, but that's the ideal range. You can be in a sustainable range though, between 21 and 30%. Although if you get closer to 30% as an online business owner, then you might need to tighten up. You might need to have less lead and conversion expenses or less offer delivery expenses, which again, we talk more about in the book. If you're more of a service-based business though, it might actually make sense for you to be more like closer to 40%, maybe even 50%. That also can be sustainable if you are a true service-based business. But again, then your lead and conversion expenses really have to be low, so on and so forth. When you start to have a team that's costing the business more than 30%, that's when it starts to get difficult. If you're an online business, if you're a service business and you're the people that are serving your clients, if that starts to become 45%, then it's going to be tough to have other team members on the operations side and to spend anything on marketing. Then you're really going to have a tough time in terms of your expenses. Again, as online businesses, if you're running an online service business, at least you likely don't have rent. But if you are more of a modern small business where you do have an office and you do have some hard costs that maybe a fully remote business doesn't have, then you really have to try to stay around that 40%. So those are the ratios we're kind of looking at here. And again, at Evolve Finance, we make it very easy for our clients to see that. But I want to ask some questions. I want to teach you to ask yourself some questions that will point you in the right direction if you think your labor costs are too high. Again, if you have a profit and loss statement, you have great bookkeeping every month, that should be a very easy number to see. Your bookkeeper should be presenting that data to you so you can see what percentage of your revenue is going to your labor costs. And they should be able to do so very easily. It's something we're able to do for our clients. So if you're not working with us, then you might have to do a little digging to find those numbers. But knowing what percentage of your revenue throughout the year is going to your team, it's a crucial metric to know. It's a really important ratio to be paying attention to throughout the year, especially if you do actually have a team. But here's some questions to ask yourself that might help. So the first thing I would ask one of our clients at Evolve Finance is the owner paying themselves payroll? Because payroll is included in the labor category. And if you are paying yourself a salary as part of your S-Corp strategy as the business owner, then that might be inflating your labor costs. So you might go look at your numbers and go, oh man, I'm at 40% labor costs. I'm spending way too much. But then you dig in and you go, oh, well, I'm paying myself 20% of that revenue for my payroll. Only 20%, the other 20% is going to my team. Well, that's fine. We don't really care what you're paying yourself. If your accountant says you have to pay yourself a certain amount of money for your payroll salary, then that's for tax purposes. That's not a business critical expense, right? Like you do need to get paid. That is business critical. But really what we care about here is what are you paying your team, not what you're paying yourself. What you pay yourself is a cash flow issue. Paying yourself too much may mean you don't have any money left over to build up your savings or maybe even start to go into negative cash flow in a given month. But what we really care about is what percentage of your revenue is going to the team. And if your owner pay through payroll is taking up a massive percentage of your revenue, then that's a good thing to know because you may want to subtract that out, at least mentally or in a separate spreadsheet from your total labor cost because it may take a significant percentage off of your labor expenses. And then that's more your true labor costs. Like what is it costing you to pay your team, not just not you and your team. You are less important. I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about what are you spending on the team. Now, the other thing to pay attention to as well is, are you paying a bunch of contractors for one-time projects this year, or are you paying a lot of contractors every single month? The reason this is important is some years contractor expenses are just going to be higher. For instance, the easiest example is maybe you redid your website. So you're going to have a bunch of design and development expenses that in other years just wouldn't be there. But you got an extra 15 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand for that big website project or whatever big project you're working on that you know for the long run is going to be really important for your business. Then you might just have to go, yep, it's just one of those years. My labor is going to look a lot higher because we had a big project to knock out. That is okay. I'm less concerned about contractors that are working on one-time projects. I get more concerned when I'm looking at a business's numbers when they're monthly contractors, the people who are working in the business on a regular basis, when those group together are really high. So I'm a little less concerned about one-time projects, more concerned about team members that we're paying every single month. So again, it doesn't change your labor cost, but at least mentally you can look at your labor costs and go, you know what, my monthly team, it's actually in good shape, but my projects this year just been higher. So I just have to accept that that's the case. Now, one of the things that I think is so important, because when you start running your business, especially if you're more on the service side, you charge enough so that you can make a profit when it's only you serving the clients. But a lot of businesses don't charge enough for them to make a profit while also paying a team. Because an advantage is, well, it's just little old me. I can charge you less than that other firm or that other agency or that other company because you don't have to, you're paying them to cover their team and their other costs. But also, if you want to grow past just you doing all the work for your clients, you need to make sure you're charging enough that you can hire a team. That if you got enough clients, because you do need to have enough clients as well, but you need to charge enough that you can take on more clients, and those clients are going to be paying you enough that you can still pay yourself a reasonable salary while also starting to pay other team members. And those team members might be team members that are working directly with your clients, like a service-based business, or it may be like, I need an admin, I need a social media manager, I need to start taking stuff off of my plate so I can focus on running the business. So a lot of the times business owners don't realize how their pricing affects their ability to scale their team, because they think, well, I just need to get more clients. But it may not be reasonable for you to get the amount of clients you need with your current pricing and also have the profitability you need to scale a business. So that is something that's definitely worth digging into. And I think most business owners know when I bring this up, it usually triggers something for them and they go, yeah, I know I've been undercharging and probably need to look into that. So if your spidey senses are going off as I talk about this, chances are you need to look at your pricing and you need to model out, what do I need to charge my clients? How many clients can I take on or customers can I take on so that I can actually support a team to keep this business stable and to keep the level of service high for the clients and customers. So pricing's a big one. Now, the next thing I would ask myself is, am I selling too many offers? Because when we are selling too many things, that usually means there's more work to be done in the business. And when there's more work to be done in the business, then it probably means we're hiring more people. But when we don't have one or two flagship offers, main offers that make us the majority of our money, what can happen is we hire a bunch of team members to support a bunch of mediocre offers that are bringing in some money, but maybe not bringing in enough money to really cover the costs of the team. And all these other offers, sure, there's work to be done to support these offers, but you may never have enough team members to fully support, properly support all the things you want to sell. And that's why if you've followed me for any amount of time or read Profit Pillars or listened to our past podcasts or seen me do a workshop, I've probably talked about how important it is that we have one, maybe two flagship offers, and we put all our energy and resources into supporting those offers to the best of our abilities. I'm not saying you can't have upsells and downsells, but when we have too many offers and too many things to sell, a lot of the times that gets our labor costs to be really inefficient. We got team members working on a bunch of stuff, but some of that stuff is probably not making you as much money as you think, and you're paying people to work on things that aren't actually delivering the goods. It's not actually delivering to your bottom line. So kind of in the same vein, are you working on too many projects? And sometimes those projects might be we're trying to sell and launch too many offers, or we're trying to make too many offers. But on the flip side, another example might be you're trying to do too many marketing tactics at once. We got an SEO team. We got a social media manager. We got an ad manager. We have all these different ways that we're spending money to drive leads or do marketing or whatever. But chances are not all of them are generating the same level of ROI. And chances are one or two of those contractors or agencies are actually losing you money. Again, as small business owners, we can only work on so many things at once. And if we don't know what are the most important things for us to be working on as a business right now, then we will start to chase after sparkly objects and get ahead of ourselves and start to work on more than our business can actually handle. We want to think our business has infinite resources. No business has truly infinite resources. We only have so much time, so much money. How are we using the time and money in your business to the best of everyone's ability? And if we're spreading yourself and your team too thin across too many initiatives, too many projects, chances are you're going to get very mediocre results, if not subpar results from all those things, instead of focusing on the biggest couple priorities in your business and actually delivering great results because you're putting all your time, energy, and money into the things that matter most for the business. Now, easier said than done, but usually for smaller online and modern small businesses, it's pretty obvious. And even if you talk to your team, like what are the most important things for us to be working on? They can probably tell you. They probably know if y'all are spending your time doing stuff that doesn't really matter. And I know for a lot of business owners, I've seen this over and over again. It's easy to have what I call business ADHD, where you're just wanting to work on something new all the time, not staying focused on the things that matter most. And business owners love to come up with new ideas, love to have new plans, because it's easier to come up with a new idea than it is to commit to doing the things that work. Because there's commitment can just be scary in all aspects of our lives, right? The trope is around commitment in relationships, right? Well, I see more commitment fear in businesses because business owners are afraid of what happens next if I actually double down on the things that work, because it gets a little more boring. I tell clients all the time, I want your business to be boring because you're doing the same things over and over again, things that work, things that deliver results. But when you get really, really good at doing the same things over and over again, you get more efficient, you get more profitable. And that means you have more cash flow to start experimenting on what's the next thing you want to do? What's the next project you can take on? Because now you have the money, time, and resources to do the next thing. So it does pay off. But a lot of the times, too many projects, too many initiatives, too many new ideas is spreading your team thin or forcing you to hire more people than you probably really need to, because chances are if you lean down your projects and your initiatives, you'd actually be able to get more done that makes the business more money, and you would do it with less people, which would lower your labor costs. Now, the next thing is, it sounds obvious, but are you just paying your team too much? Now, please understand, considering I run an accounting firm and I'm a business owner, and the fact that I'm financially conservative, which shouldn't be a surprise, I'm all for paying people what they're worth. and sometimes paying people a little more. Because as small business owners, we don't always have the same compensation packages that bigger companies can offer. So we can offer different things as small business owners than maybe bigger companies can. So please do not take are you paying your team too much? Go outsource everything to a country where you can pay everyone $7 an hour. I do not believe in those types of strategies. But there are times where I've seen business owners truly paying team members too much, paying team members more than the business owner is making, or simply spending too much money across too many people. So the perfect example of this would be a lot of business owners dream of having a COO. Again, I think it's a little silly to call them COOs because the business usually isn't big enough to warrant any sort of executive level person. But whether it's a director of operations, operations manager, COO, but I've seen business owners hire someone thinking, I better pay someone a lot of money, a 6-figure salary, so I can just offload everything to them. And I don't want to do any of the things. I want to take a step back. I want to focus on the next big thing. And what ends up happening is you get the COO in. They're not usually as effective as you think because everyone wants to hire a unicorn that just knows how to do all the things, and very rarely do they very rarely know how to do all the things exactly the way you need them to. It takes time. You need to train. You need to develop. And a lot of the times business owners just want to hire a unicorn and go, if I just pay someone enough money, they're probably going to be great. And then if the business owner now has all this extra time, but they don't know what revenue generating activities they need to stay focused on to help the business grow, then it's a double whammy. You just increase your labor costs and you're not really increasing your revenue because of it, because as the business owner, you're just not utilizing your new freed up time well enough to pay for this new COO. So sometimes there's just these high level, whether it's a CEO, COO, some sort of head of marketing, whatever it may be. Of course, if your business is big enough to support a role like that, great. But usually it takes time to develop internal team members to promote them into those roles. It's very hard as a small business to bring in high level people and expect them to perform in the way that we need them to. So it's not a matter of you're paying your overall team too much, but is there that one person on your team, maybe they're a higher level role that you're hoping to be a unicorn, you're hoping to make your life easier, but between you and them, you're not generating enough revenue to really justify their salaries, hence your labor expenses being really high because of it. Now, there's also things like your agencies. There comes a point where sure, agencies, there's some things an agency or a firm you're never going to bring internally. But there are some types of agencies and firms that we've seen clients pay that are doing what I would consider more internal type work for the business, but the client is outsourcing it to someone else. And agencies have to generate a profit. We're not talking about just a contractor, but even contractors, a lot of the times they want to be able to scale their operation and they need to charge you enough so that they can bring in other people. And that's fine with certain things like your accounting team or your legal team or your ad agency team or whatever it may be. But when you're hiring an agency to do work that really should be built up internally in your business, you're going to be spending more to do tasks that you could easily pay an employee to do individually, and you also have more flexibility and more buy-in from an employee. So it really comes down to, I think, sometimes paying contractors to do work that really an employee should be doing, because contractors and agencies can get a lot more expensive than employees can get. There's a little bit of a misnomer that employees are so expensive. And yes, they're about 7% more expensive than a contractor, given that if you're paying the contractor and employee the same salary, the employee is going to cost you more because you have to cover part of their taxes. But a lot of the times you can pay an employee a lower salary because you're giving them full-time work versus contractors' hourly rates. Agencies' hourly rates can be really, really high. And if they don't have a level of expertise that is really difficult to hire internally for, then you probably need to bring some of this stuff in-house. Now, the last thing I just want to mention too is sometimes business owners, it's the generous thing to do, and it's a really kind and thoughtful thing to do. but it ends up hurting a small business, at least online and modern small businesses in the long run, is profit sharing, where we have one employee or multiple employees or contractors or team members who are getting a percentage of the business's revenue. And a lot of the times as business owners, we do this because we go, well, I can't pay you a lot right now, but if we're successful, we make more, then you'll get a cut and there's upside and you'll make a lot more money then. The problem with that, though, is as the business does do better and those team members are getting a percentage, again, whether it's one team member or multiple team members, what happens is it becomes really difficult to have enough profit at the end of the month to build up your cash cushion, to make further investments in the business, because you have these essentially cost of goods with your team where they're going to make more and more and more money as the business grows. But inevitably what you need are team members that you have on more of a salary. You give them raises, you let them grow over time, but they're not taking a percentage. Giving out profit sharing, giving out a percentage can be really detrimental to a business's growth. And while it may feel generous in the now, in the long run, I've seen it actually hurt businesses, stop them from growing, and really create tricky situations between the business owner and these team members who are getting profit shares without taking on any of the legal or financial risk of being a business owner, and it gets messy. So those are the things that as a business owner, those are the questions you need to ask yourself. Are you paying your team too much? And those are just a few examples there. Lastly, I've seen businesses grow really quickly and business owners get overwhelmed. So just to solve this, they hire more people. They just hire. They throw people at the problems instead of looking at their systems and processes. Over time, your business will probably slow down. I think a lot of online business owners especially wouldn't have believed me pre-2022. Now they believe me. There was a little while there where a lot of newer businesses, more modern businesses, had never seen an economic downturn and never seen a recession. And we're like, I'm just going to grow forever. This is the best. I love running an online business. Well, now everyone has seen what happens when things slow down. When things slow down, though, that's the perfect opportunity to work on your systems, work on your processes, get your business more efficient so that you can get more work done without having to hire more people. Because a lot of the times, business owners are hiring more people because the systems suck. And there's no processes, there's no documentation, you're not training people. So you're just throwing people at the work. I say this a lot. Eventually, it's not enough to simply get work done in your business. You eventually have to start to care about how the work gets done in the business. What's the approach to getting the work done? What's the most efficient path to getting the work done? Because if all we care about is getting the work done, that usually means we're going to be inefficient, and that means less profitability. And from a labor standpoint, that means higher labor costs. We just hire more people without thinking, do we actually need to hire someone else? Maybe we just need to rethink our approach to how we're getting our work done. So there's a lot to cover about labor here. I know we just talked about a lot, but this is something that for anyone who's built a team, this is probably hit home for you in one way or another, one of these different aspects, because it's universal. It doesn't matter how big your business is. If your business is big enough to have a team, you've probably experienced something here. So if you want to dive more into this, more into the labor pillar, check out my book, Profit Pillars. We go into all the different profit pillars in your business and help you build a stronger, more financially fit foundation, while also teaching you how to analyze your numbers and what to glean from the metrics in your business. What are your numbers trying to tell you, and what do you do with that information? And that's a big part of the second half of the book. But as always, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.